So you're living in a environment where your parents actually don't feel like your parents. Your parents are too preoccupied with their own anxieties, with their own trauma. They don't they can't really handle the emotional presence that it requires to nurture a child. So you don't really build that connection with your parents, which is also amplified with the time that they spend through working a job that they actually don't like. And of course, money needs to come in, right? So that's something that sadly need to happen. But the thing is, you don't build that connection with your parents. So what you will do is you will put more attention onto your friends, onto the outside world. Why? Because you still need that attention. You still need that connection with somebody. And since you don't feel it with your family, you need to go somewhere else. So what will happen is you will put more emphasis and more, basically your orientation is about your friends more than your parents, because you've never connected with your parents, so you will connect more with your friends. And this is what like developmental psychologists call peer orientation. You are more orientated about your peers. That was something that I've really had. So I always needed like insurance from my friends. So what would happen is I had a friend, and all of a sudden he met somebody else, and all of a sudden he started hanging less. He started spending less time with me. And for a healthy dude, that wouldn't be no problem, because you will have a strong enough sense to spend time with yourself and be like, this is normal, bro. This is life. Everybody has their own life. People want to be around other people too. Life is not about me. But since I never learned that, since I've never had that connection, so I've never built that sense of self, you don't really learn how to be your own person. So you always are clinging onto another person. And that's what happened with me. So I always used to get like highly emotional when that would happen. And the thing is, later on in life, people will kind of judge you for it. They'll be like, yeah, he's an overly emotional dude, things like that. And that's where like this society is very toxic, in a sense that behavior that is basically like actually kind of sad that grown men are displaying those behaviors, because nowadays there are really people that get very envious and might actually kill the person that they used to call their best friend, because all of a sudden the person starts spending more time with somebody else. And I'm that, of course, it will always kind of hurt, but it should never really hurt on a level that you feel like, damn, I need to do something about this situation. At the end of the day, it might hurt, but you should always have the enough sense of self and enough like backbone to be like, then what does that actually have to do with me? In the first place, I never really was dependent of that person. We just like each other's company. But for the person that didn't build that sense, it wouldn't be like that. And same was for me. So I got a story of what happened with me. So it was like, we was around 13, but at that time we was already like kind of like in the street doing like a lot of bad things. So what we were doing was like, we were like stealing bikes, things like that. And we had like a group chat, and in that group chat we would discuss all those things. And what happened was like, one of those parents read that chat and they saw me talking about those things. So they were they were mad. And what the parent basically did was, the parent that saw that basically connected all the parents from the dudes in that group chat. And we were young, like we weren't older than 13, so they hit up all our parents and be like, yeah, he did this one dude, so me, yeah, he's talking about this and that. And like, it was really something naive, to be honest, from their own parents, because their parents really didn't want to see like the, how would I say it, the bad side of their own children within that group chat. It was all about basically me. And I kind of understand that, because I always have something like, when I'm in like a group, I have like a kind of strong presence that I don't really like to be bossed around. So they might have seen me like, yeah, he's kind of like the group leader, thing like that. You know how stupid you are when you're 13, you got like that. It was also during that time I used to watch like Pablo Escobar around that time. And I don't know if you know the TV show Pablo Escobar, El Patron del Mal. In English, it's called Pablo Escobar, the drug lord. But in Spanish, it basically means like the drug lord of the evil. So I was really like influenced by that. So you had like those dudes named, one was named Chili, the other one was named Topo, and the other one was like Limon. And what I would do was like, from now on, where I called it like the name was TMP, so that stood for Team Plata, which means like team money. And so it was kind of like a gang thing like that. So I even like assigned like names to the dudes, like, okay, from now on you're Chili, I am Topo, or something like that. The other dude was Limon, and we all had those names which came from the TV show that I was watching. So that was crazy. That was real funny. So the parents all read that, and instead of seeing like the bad of, but at the same time I also understand it, because that's just human nature. You will never really look at you will always just look at something which is outside of you, and your child is your child. So you don't really want to see his bad side. Even though my parents were always like those neutral parents. Like, you can knock on my door and my parents wouldn't be the dude like, nah, my child would never do that. My sweet Tommy would never do something like that. My parents know, bro, I used to be a bad kid. If you came around there, bro, my parents would be like, yeah, this is some shit that he will do. So, like, yeah, but a lot of parents aren't like that, and it's understandable, right? It's no bad feelings against those parents or something like that. But what happened was, all the parents of those dudes basically like matched up against me. And it was like a kind of big group. It was like up to like 8 people, something like that, maybe a little bit less. So it's not really that big, but it was like, for a close group, it's kind of big. Normally, like, close friends consist out of like 3 other dudes, something like that. But it was like 6, maybe 7. So what would happen? They did that. They said like, yeah, he's the bad dude, which was me, Giranison. Like, he's the bad dude, this and that. And yeah, so it was just a regular day for me. I was like, yeah, let me pick up my friends, this and that. And I knock on one of the parents' door, and all of a sudden they were like, so I asked like, yo, is he at home? And they were like, nah, he is not at home, and I don't think he will no longer be your friend. So I was like, why is that? And there was something like, it was hard for me. Why? Because I also was like inside of their home, things like that. So I was inside of their home always, and it actually felt like kind of good because they had like a peaceful family. So I really liked it, and like it also gave me a good feeling because I felt accepted by those parents. So yeah, that felt good for me. So I spent some time inside of their house, and all of a sudden I knock on the door, and it's just cold rejection. And yeah, so they just said, nah, he will no longer be with you. Like, he will no longer be your friend. And that was just like kind of like, when it comes to like friendship, it was like heartbreak. So that was hard for me. But even though at that same time, like, you can't really handle that, so I picked up like you feel me, like that tough demeanor, like you just be like, all right. So even though it felt hard for me, so what I did was I grabbed my bike, but the lock of my bike wasn't opening. So the lock wasn't opening. I was a little bit messing with it, and all of a sudden the dad be like, bro, you better hurry up before I give you before I help you get off the block. Basically, that's what he said. So and you feel me, like I was like, yo, around that time I was like, yo, so I said, I'm like, bro, don't underestimate. I might be a young dude, but don't underestimate me. Then I don't know, the dad said something, the mom came like kind of between it, and I opened the lock and I went on my way. But the thing is, we always had like that friend group. So I was like, all right, maybe let me just go to the next person, and then like the thing is, like, you know how it is when a lot of parents might be like point fingers at dudes, but they don't know that their son is not really innocent. So at this time I still had like some like, okay, like, bro, their parents might be mad at me, so this probably just only means that I no longer can pick them up. But in the streets we're still like cool. So that's what I thought. So I end up going to the other dude's house, and all of a sudden I seen them all together with each other, and I pulled up, but I seen like they were dodging me, so they were just already like walking away from me. So I was like, and like, you feel me, like I never got like the talking side. So instead of like being like, how would I say, like talking about it, I instantly got mad and snapped on one of the dudes, and I was like, it wasn't really fighting, but I was like kind of like provoking a fight, because that's all I knew when I was vulnerable. So I was feeling vulnerable. All of a sudden I had no friends anymore. So I was like, I had to do something. So I put up my defense mechanism, which was anger. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to show them that they're not that tough, kind of like, that's how it worked around my head. So in my head, even though I was really like fearful of losing those friends. So yeah, of course, displaying that behavior only made it like kind of worse. So we didn't end up fighting. They just went up about their way. But all of a sudden I had no friends. Feel me? I had no friends. And the thing is, this is actually something that is very apparent in a child's life. I was 13 at that time, so it's also the time when you go to high school. You know, high school, all of a sudden you meet like 100 new dudes or girls, and all of a sudden you got a lot of people in your life. Bro, already like a year later, you will only talk to like 5 people of that. You feel me? And that's very normal. But for me, it was actually very devastating, because I never had that connection with my parents. So I seek that connection elsewhere in like the outside world, with that group of friends and like girls and things like that. You feel me? So, and that's how your life actually will become very hard, because what you need to understand is the ain't nobody will love you like a parent. That's the only love that is like unconditional. You feel me? It's the only love that's unconditional, and a lot of us never receive that, and we can't really change none about it. The only thing that we can do is improve ourselves, heal our own trauma, and make sure that we can give that to our children, so that they will be and will have a strong enough sense of self when those like kind of fractures and breakups with like friends and girls will occur in their life. Then they won't be that devastated by it, because they have like a strong enough sense of self. You feel me? Because they know like it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I'm only around you for like friendly pleasure. It's not like I need you. It's not like I put my trust in you and I'm really like connected on you in a way that I'm really like kind of seeking the validation that I needed to receive from my parents. You feel me? And when it's not like that, then you won't be affected by those things, which will also make it less likely for you to later on in life go through those things. Because like I said, I was very emotional when it came to like when I felt like kind of like abandoned by my friends if when I was younger. So if all of a sudden they had like new friends, I would be like, damn bro, like that hurted me. But you won't really talk about it, right? Because that's something that never happens in your house. So what you will do is you just react with anger. So all of a sudden you will become very defensive and hit them up like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why you angry with those dudes? All of a sudden you forget your day one homies. And that shit is really fake to me. In my opinion, bro, you should never feel worried about a dude, or in my opinion, it's also like a girl leaving your side because they wanna go with somebody else, and not even in some way of like, I'm too tough for that, like you shouldn't think about it. No, it's really like, bro, that's really life, bro. Like, what you really need to understand is like, life is not about you. Somebody will meet somebody else and might really think like, yes, I actually want to spend more time with him instead of my old homie. And that's something like that shit will happen. And it's, of course, you will probably still, you're not a robot, so you will still feel some type of way, but you will never feel like that you need to defend yourself and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Why all of a sudden you got new homies? That's just unhealthy. And the thing is, the more space you give people, the more they want to be around you. So, bro, best believe if you won't be on somebody's lips and be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, bro? 9 out of 10 times they will still want to be with you. Why? Because people love people that can be happy on themselves. And that's something like society won't tell you this. They be like, yeah, you need to be very clean. And no, people respect. Why we respect that? We respect a free man. We respect a free human being. And you will convey that when you're just like, if somebody got a sense like, damn, this dude is actually happy with himself, like he can spend time with himself. People always want to be with those people. Feel me? That just goes both ways. When it comes to like intimate relationships with girls and like friendship wise with dudes. Feel me? So that will just only, if you have that if you give your children that healthy sense of self, it will actually be very likely for them that they will have a lot of friends, and actually healthy friends, because they wouldn't put their trust in them which will only make those friends like them more, because they will feel like, damn, he's actually like he or she is actually a strong person. I want to be around him or her because they are happy on their own. So yeah, that's really like my story of why it's so important to have that connection with your parents, so that they can give you that sense of self along with you and make you feel appreciated in your life. Because that will really, like, because it's really like the opposite thing will happen, because a lot of people will be like, post those quotes like, yeah, I always been hurt in my life, so I can handle the pain. No, you can't handle the pain. Why? Otherwise you wouldn't post this quote. This quote is really you acting out of hurt, but you're putting up that defense mechanism. I used to do those things too. I would be on Snapchat like, bro, I'm not worried. I'm not faced about nothing. I've been through all this heartbreak. I don't care about him or her. I don't care about none of that. But deep down, you're affected by it. Otherwise, this wouldn't even be on your thought process, within your thought process. So that's really like the opposite will happen. More pain wouldn't make you a stronger person, in a sense, like unhealthy pain. And when it comes to like unhealthy pain, like having a connection with your parents, you can never have like too much of that. You can only have less of that. So what will happen is, if you don't have that, that won't make you stronger. Never. Like, of course, you can later on in life do like the things to make you stronger on that aspect, but it's not that nobody benefits from being traumatized. Nobody. You're living with a wound. So that's something like, that's actually like a victim talk that traumatized people create. And I used to be one of them. That's why I can educate you up on that topic. And you really need to be careful about those things. So when you notice that you feel like the tendency of you showing the world how tough you are, you really need to think about, why do you want to show the world how tough you are? So that will just only show that you're actually not that tough. You're actually very vulnerable and very sensitive. And sometimes that's hard to realize, because you don't want to consider yourself as like sensitive. No, I'm not sensitive, because we immediately think as sensitive of being weak, but we're only sensitive and weak because we're traumatized. But when you're not traumatized, your sensitivity for life will only make you stronger. Why? Because you will be very empathetic towards people. You feel me? So in this day of age, a lot of people don't have that connection. So a lot of people are growing up traumatized. And that's the most apparent trauma within our society, people not having a healthy connection with their parents. And that will just put you in that vicious cycle of not having friends and being very clingy towards the friends that you have, which will only push them away further. And when they will go further, you will feel like you feel the need to defend yourself against that and try to get them close to you, like, why you're not hanging with me anymore, why this and that, which will only push them further anyway, to a point that you will have no friends. And that's how, this another example of how your trauma defense mechanisms will later on will become your weak points. You feel me? So when you were younger, you needed to do that with your parents. Like, you needed to do everything to gain that sense of validation and feel connected with somebody. So you needed to do everything to get their attention back. But when it comes to like the outer world, people that really don't owe you anything, it will only work against you when you will be clingy towards those people. In my opinion, you can never be, especially when you're younger, like you can never be too clingy to your parents as a child. So that's really important for you to realize how it affects your life, so that you can change that, and so that you can actually give your parents, that your children, that healthy connection, so that they won't be peer orientated and need all that validation from their peers, because it will be just a vicious cycle that they will fall victim to, and it will be a chase that will never work out for them. So that was my message. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you have any questions, I will drop my Twitter and TikTok in my description. If you want to have like a one-to-one call with me about like healing trauma, self-improvement, you can hit me up on my DM on either Twitter or TikTok. So yeah, description is and that's entirely free. Like the first time people will be free, so I will drop those socials in my description, so feel free to check me out on there. And yeah, that was my video, man. Stay improving, stay grinding, stay doing your thing, stay healing trauma, stay grinding, stay improving. I'm out.